Again, Your Honor, I am Bill Cloonan. I'm the attorney for the Board of Water Commissioners. I've been associated with the Water Board for over 35, perhaps going on 40 years now. As this group is aware, my father was superintendent for some 47 years, and the formation of the Kingston Water Department was done under the auspices of another family member, John F. Cloonan, back in the 1870s. I do have some history about this, and I'm very familiar with the operation of the Water Board and its operation and distribution of water outside the city limits. I just want to bring a couple things to mind. A number of speakers have mentioned about the Niagara issue. I have to tell you, that really brings to my mind as an attorney one of the issues that should be before Your Honor and the Common Council here. There was a group that came forward who was opposed to the use of the water by Niagara Bottling Company. One speaker said it was a for-profit company. There are very few companies that I'm aware of that are not for-profit that use water. IBM was obviously a profit company, and they were also using up to 1 million gallons of water a day. But the problem is that a group of people were able to come forward, and this is what I foresee as an attorney and as a citizen. A small group of people were able to raise an issue that they were opposed to, that issue being the use of water for the manufacture of sale of water in plastic bottles. Specifically, the objection was to plastic. And that may be a very good and worthy cause. Unfortunately, I see if it's used as a decision-making process as to whether or not water should be sold to a consumer, whether they be within or without the city of Kingston, I see that as being a very dangerous political issue. If a user came into the town of Ulster and decided on that site, which we have the exclusive obligation to supply water to, if they wanted to build a hospital, do you think there'd be an objection to a hospital being located on that site? Probably not. However, if that hospital were to do things such as performing procedures such as abortions or whatever, there is a very militant group that say, we don't want that use on that property. So now we have the political process involved as to how the water is to be used. Suppose it was a farm, and we do supply water to farms. And I've asked a number of the farmers around here, and remarkably enough, a number of bottled milk is supplied in plastic bottles, but we don't see the hue and cry of plastic bottles or milk use. Now, I'm not saying it's a good or bad thing for the use of the water, so what they use, but the Water Board, as it was formed, does not have the authority. It's not granted the authority by law. And I tell you that some people say, well, the law has to be changed because it's old. The Constitution's been working pretty well for a couple of years, and most of our statutes have. But if we start making decisions as to how a person is going to be using things, which is a political decision, and that's what would come before this chamber, I think that could cause a real danger in the future. Second thing that people have to acknowledge that there were contracts in effect of which we're obliged to follow. We don't have a choice. And in the agreement that was sold water to the IBM premises, in that contract, as approved by the state, as approved by the legislature, as approved by this Common Council, as approved by the Water Board, you are, and the city is specifically prohibited from making decisions on how the water is to be used on that property. Is whatever use the tenant decides. So that's a very important thing that this group has to acknowledge, but they will not. Lastly, the thing that's really, not even lastly, but coming up to this, the Water Board members that I've spoken to and the superintendent are very upset about the reaction that people have had with respect to the water commissioners, thinking that they have sold their rights. They're very interested conservatively, more than anyone knows. They had never reached a decision to sell water to Niagara at that site. They were still doing their process investigation as to the first issue as whether or not there was an adequacy of supply. Our liaison from the Common Council, who sits at our meetings, has gotten up here again over and over and said that we were going to sell 1.75 million gallons of water per day to Niagara. Fabrication. That never was true. He is aware of it. The Common Council members should be aware of it. There was never an agreement to sell, or never even a request for 1.75 million gallons of water per day at that facility. They said there would be days when they could use up to that amount on an occasion. but we were not giving away or selling 1.75 million gallons of water. These things have to be clarified. One of the speakers here said that he was opposed to the sale of water outside the city limits for profit. You can't make that decision how a person is going to be using or not using his water. If you start doing outside the city, let's do it within the city. I don't like my neighbor, I don't like he's going to put a car wash in. And I don't like him having car washes. So we're going to vote on this as a political group and make that decision. It creates another layer that a developer in this area has to go through and face. Right now, a developer, if he wanted to locate in the town of Ulster or the town of Port Union or whatever, they would have to come not only to that municipality, go through the secret process, now they're going to go through another layer of the residents of the city of Kingston. There is no way that the city water board is allowed to sell water, its water, town of Woodstock's water, that's going to cause any jeopardy to the users of the city of Kingston. As I explained to this council when I first came in here, I've drawn the contracts, I am familiar with the law, and the law is not a secret. And what it says is if there's a sale of water by the city of Kingston to someone outside of its corporate limits, and in any way endangers the supply of water to the residents of the city of Kingston, and including the residents of the town of Woodstock, because they're part of that agreement, that tap must be turned off. If we had a drought, the water has to be turned off. It happened at IBM. I remember that. When we had a drought, IBM was a huge facility. We went out to IBM and said, listen, we're having a water shortage. That tap was turned almost in half for IBM in order to conserve water for the people of the city of Kingston. There are protections. There are guarantees. If the issue is one of Niagara as to what people are going to be used for, I'd say that is a totally inappropriate issue with respect to this referendum. If it's a question of supply, I want you to know, and I want the members of the Common Council to know, and I want these people to know that there are adequate preservation standards in effect right now that prohibit any jeopardy of the sale of water outside the city of Kingston to users. So I want to bring that to the mayor's attention. I want to bring it to the public's attention. I believe that this referendum, I believe that it's an issue that the people should be brought to the people as a referendum. I think the people should speak on it, but I think they should really carefully think about what they're asking this council to do. Two people have said something here. One was Mr. Garrett said it's worked for many years, it hasn't broken, why change it? Second was a comment that was made recently, is the water board has been working all these years, it's been working very well. It is transparent. We have the mayor, we have a member of the Common Council on that. Our board meetings are open. But if they're having problems running other issues in the city of Kingston, and the water department's worked pretty well all these years, don't mess with the water department. That's my opinion and that of the Water Commissioners. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.